Welcome to the homework video, Lesson 1-1 on the number line. The objective of this lesson, you will be able to represent various numbers on a number line. You will be able to interpret and write statements of inequality for two given positive numbers using the symbols less than and greater than. During this lesson and in your writing assignment after this lesson, you will be using and hearing the vocabulary words listed. The first one is inequality. That is a numbered sentence which compares two values. Here's an example. 6 is greater than 3. 8 is less than X. Whole numbers, any number, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Positive numbers, numbers greater than 0. You will hear number line, horizontal or vertical line, representing whole numbers, decimals, or fractions. We will be talking about the interval, the space between 2 points on a number line. Tick marks, small lines representing units on the number line. Well, let's look at what is a number line. A number line is a way we can visually represent numbers, which can be very helpful when we can see it. We will only be looking at the positive numbers in this lesson. In the next lesson, we will look at negative numbers. Number lines can either be horizontal or vertical. And how I remember which is horizontal and which is vertical is when I look at the word horizontal. It reminds me of the word horizon. And it is where the sky and earth meet at the imaginary line. And it goes from left to right or right to left. And so vertical is just the horizontal line rotated 90 degrees. So it goes up and down. Horizontal, the positive numbers are to the right of 0 and increase from left to right. Vertical, the positive numbers are above the 0 and increase upwards. Fractions and decimals can also be placed on either line. They are in between the whole numbers. So let's look at how do we represent numbers. Well, we're going to look at representing the numbers between 5 and 12. The first thing we would have to do is draw a number line. And in the interval, we would place tick marks signifying the numbers that we're asked to place. So now we will label them. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now we need to mark those lines to represent the numbers that we're being asked between 5 and 12. Well, what numbers are between 5 and 12? Well, let's look. Is 5 between 5 and 12? No, 5 is equal to 5. So I would not mark it. Is 6 between 5 and 12? Yes. So is 7. So is 8, 9, 10, and 11. What about 12? Is 12 between 5 and 12? No. 12 is equal to 12. It is not between. So remember, when you see the word between, only mark the numbers that are between. 5 and 12 are not marked on the line. Let's look at a vertical line. Let's represent the whole numbers from 5 to 12. First thing we need to do again is draw our number line with our tick marks. Now we're going to label those tick marks with our numbers. Now we're going to mark or represent the whole numbers from 5 to 12. Well, when I see the word from, I know that this is a series of numbers, so I can mark them all. Five and 12 are marked because of the word from. They are all in a series. Here are some common mistakes. Students may not read each word problem carefully enough to know what end values should be marked on the number lines. Look for the word between. Two numbers, do not include those two numbers because of the word between. From, two numbers are included because they are in a series. Now you're probably wondering, what are these? Well, in the computer world, they are hashtags, but in mathematics world, they are a symbol to indicate numbers. Let's look at comparing numbers. First, we need to draw our number line. If you'll notice that there's two arrows on either side of the number line. This shows that the line goes on forever. It also allows us to stop and start any number to show a small piece of the line. Well, you're thinking, well, to find the smallest or largest numbers on a number line is pretty easy. Why do I need to use a number line? Well, it would be easy if they're asking to put the smallest and largest on the number line, 4, 75, 28, 120, and 1. Those are easy. But it becomes more complicated when we start using various numbers like decimals, fractions, and negative numbers all on the same line. It would be quite complicated if they asked us to mark the numbers 3/10, 3/4, 3, 76/100, 2/5, and 5. That would be a little harder to place the smallest to the largest. All right, let's look at writing an equality. We're going to write a numbered sentence of an equality by using the symbols less than and greater than. Let's compare 35 and 33. We need to look at which is larger. So we're going to draw a number line. And we're going to mark the two numbers they've asked for, 33 and 35. Which is larger? Well, we can ask ourselves, does 35 lie to the right of 33 or to the left? Well, it lies to the right. And we know that numbers on the number line increase going to the right. So 35 is larger. And the inequality is written, 35 is greater than 33. Well, let's look. Is 110 less than 250? How would we write it? Well, on a number line, I know that 110 is to the left of 250, so it is less. We would write it 110 is less than 250. Now you're probably thinking, how can I remember which direction the arrow, the greater than or less than symbol goes? Well, if you think back to in the younger grades, you were taught that this was an alligator's mouth, and that the hungry alligator always eats the larger number, so the mouth is always open to the larger number. Well, I want to show you another way. Let's look again, 110 and 250. We need to fill in the symbol. So my little trick is, when I have the lesser number, I put a dot. I'll use a red one. And on the larger number, I place two dots next to it. And then I connect the dots. And that way I always know which direction I'm going. Mystery numbers. Did you know that fractions and decimals are hidden on number lines? Well, let's represent 1/4, 2/4, and 3/4 on a number line. First thing we need to do is we need to draw our number line. Well, how can we find out how many intervals we need to make? Let's look at our denominator. We have a denominator of 4. That tells me my number line needs to be divided into 4 intervals. Here's my number line. Here's where I start 0. And then I've made 4 equal intervals. Now I'm going to mark them. 1/4, 2/4, and 3/4. Let's look at comparing fractions. Let's fill in the missing fractions and mixed numbers on the number line. Then complete the inequality statements. Here's the number line. It's already been divided for us. Let's see. We have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm only looking at how it is divided between each whole number. It's divided into 3 with this whole number, with the number 1, and it's divided into 3 with the whole number 2. So I know in the fractions, this is thirds. So let's label our line. 1/3, 2/3, 1 1/3, 1 2/3. We know also that this is 3/3, or the whole number 1. Then when we start here, we have the whole number 1 plus 1/3. Whole number 1 plus 2/3. This would be 1 whole and 3/3, or we turn it into 2 wholes. So 2/3 is less than 1. 2 is greater than 1 1/3. Let's look at decimals on a number line. How many decimals are between 0 and 1? If we're going to represent decimals from 1/10 to 9/10. Well, let's look. 1/10 to 9/10 are divided into tenths because of place value, tenths. So I'm drawing my number line, dividing it into tenths, and now I'm labeling my tick marks. 0, 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, all the way up to 1 whole. Now let's mark them. Seven tenths, 8/10, 9/10. Remember, we have the word from, so I marked them all in the series. Let's practice. Let's represent positive numbers less than 5 on the number line. So I've made my number line, and I've labeled my intervals. Ready? Less than 5. 1 is less than 5. 2 is less than 5. 3 is less than 5. 4 is less than 5. Is 5 less than 5? No, it is equal to 5. We also do not mark the 0 because 0, there is no number. 0 is always 0 and never marked. Here's our next number line. We're going to represent whole numbers greater than 9 but less than 14. Drawn my number line, and I've made some tick marks. Now I will label them. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Now I did this to show that I can expand my number line if I choose to. So let's look. Let's mark all the numbers greater than 9 but less than 14. 10 is less than 14 and greater than 9. 11 is greater than 9 but less than 14. So is the number 12. So is the number 13. Should we mark 14? It's greater than 9, but it is not less than 14. It is equal to 14, so I will not mark it. So remember, greater than 9, you do not mark 9. Less than 14, do not mark 14. Here's another practice. We're going to represent the fractions. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, and 4/5 on a vertical number line. First thing I need to do is figure out how am I going to divide my line. Well, to represent these fractions, I have to subdivide the interval between 0 and 1 into 5 smaller intervals. So here's my number line, and I've divided it into 5 smaller intervals. And then I labeled and marked my line. Here's another practice. We're going to represent the decimals 2, 2 and 2/10, 2 and 4/10, 2 and 6/10, and so on till we get to 4 on a vertical number line. Well, I need to find out how am I going to do this. To represent these decimals, I must subdivide the interval from 2 to 4. And it must be done into 10 equal intervals of 2/10. The reason? It's counting by 2/10. Here's my number line. Started with 2, ended with 4, and I made tick marks all the way in tenths. Now I'll mark them. And I marked them all. Let's review. Each point on a number line represents a unique number. Number lines can be horizontal or vertical. Whole numbers. Positive numbers lie to the right of 0 on a horizontal line or above 0 on a vertical line. Horizontal line with the lesser number lies to the left of the greater number. On a vertical line, the lesser number lies below the greater number. Fractions and decimals. Horizontal line, the lesser number lies to the left of the greater number again. And on a vertical line, the lesser number lies below the greater number. Remember, read the problem carefully, mark only numbers asked for. Greater than a 4 and less than a 7, do not mark 4 or 7. From 2 to 9, mark all the numbers in the series, including the 2 and the 9. If it asks you between two numbers like 4 and 9, do not mark 4 or 9. In this lesson, you can now represent various numbers on a number line. You can interpret and write statements of inequality for two given positive numbers using the symbols less than and greater than. Remember, do not forget to fill out your WISC. The WISC stands for W, means where and when did you watch the video? S is summarize the video using vocabulary words. Question. Write any questions you have about the lesson. If you have no question, then think of a question someone else might have about this lesson. Cannot think of one of those? Then write a problem using fractions or decimals to show a statement of inequality and solve it. You might see it on a test. You can either fill out the WISC online or you can fill it in your math journal. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. See you tomorrow in class.